Well then, for those of you who have followed the channel for any length of time, like a very long amount of time, you know that I don't usually do unboxing videos anymore, other than once every 6 months to a year, because I don't feel like they add a whole lot of value themselves, and typically there's no real reason to do it unless I have a whole bunch of stuff that happens to arrive at once, and it provides a good opportunity to preview what's coming on the channel. So what's happening here today? I have a lot. Some of it I don't even know what it is. Some of it I've forgotten about. And one of these things I'm super stoked for, and it's part of the reason I'm doing this unboxing, because I'm so excited to talk about why it's coming. But also, everything you see here isn't even everything I have. I have a literal mountain of much bigger boxes downstairs that just would not fit up here, and I wasn't going to carry up here, from a couple different companies. And I missed FedEx today while I was in the shower, so I missed a package that I have no clue what it is from them. I have DHL coming with something very exciting for this main camera here, my Ursa, that I'm super stoked for. I can't wait to talk about it. It's getting its own video. And if you see me looking off to the right, or I guess that's screen left, I have a new studio monitor in the house, which is really big and makes my life super easy. But at the moment it's positioned off to the right, and so I'm gonna have a tendency to look over at it. So for that I apologize. But I'm super stoked. I almost dropped a knife on my foot. That was a remote, never mind. Let's jump in. So I want to get the more exposed stuff out of the way first, since they don't actually require unboxings. I have here the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K with a wooden camera cage rig thing. And then I have a couple lenses here that I got on loan from lensprotogo.com/lensrentals.com. And I am pretty stoked. Both the camera and the lenses are on loan. The camera is direct from B&H. So, you know, it's nothing I get to keep, but this is the first time I've received a major camera. This is a, you know, fully professional cinema camera for review that I get a chance to review. So I'm pretty stoked to get that review out. I still have a couple weeks left on it. And then this is my first time working with a rentals company to borrow some lenses, and they ship them in these nice Pelican containers. I got a SLR Magic anamorphic lens, and then I've got a couple other ones in the cage came in this container. So I'm pretty excited for that, and just wanted to share this. This video is going to have a couple different firsts for me in terms of stuff I get to check out. And I've been enjoying this little bad boy. You'll get to see how what I think of it in the full review, but I've been enjoying my time with it, and it's pretty cool to have a camera rig at all like this and to get one that I can review. The only other thing that isn't directly unboxed here is I also have the BirdDog Studio NDI decoder and encoder here in the studio. I've been communicating with them for like a year and a half. Finally have one in the studio. If you don't know what this is, wait for the review, but it's basically, it's an Ethernet encoder and decoder for video signals using the NDI protocol, which I've covered in my OBS guides quite a bit. It's really cool technology. This is a very high-end model for a specific purpose, but I get to check it out. My cat is very confused by the studio monitor as well. She just saw herself in the preview. That could be a problem. I wish you all could see how excitedly she's looking at the screen. She's real confused. She keeps seeing her tail. Anyway, let's move on. We're gonna hit some small stuff before we get to the big stuff here. This is just something silly. My buddy Knackers, I checked out one of his live streams, and he had a really cool shirt that I felt was really on brand for my brand and something I really wanted just because I thought it was awesome. And thankfully, unlike some creators, he doesn't treat his shirt selection as a trade secret. So he pointed me to the designer's shop, and I picked it up. I will have a link to it in the description below if I remember. If not, just remind me. This is like arcade mush or something it's called. Really freaking cool. The material's kind of weird. Almost feels like one of those sports shirts. I wasn't expecting that. It's really soft though. It's just not my usual style of t-shirt, but Pokemon references, Game Boys, Nintendo 64s. Love it. You're gonna be seeing that in some videos. I love getting me some on-brand shirts for videos. This is from my buddy Lagundo's shop. I have no idea if it's still up. If it is, I will also try to make sure I get a link in the description. Let's get cracking on some of these other packages here. Man, some of these international packages end up with my address all over it. It is very hard to like secure that information. Like there's 4 different address labels on this box to me. Weird. And it's so covered with tape, I have no idea how to open it. So this is a webcam. I got sent a webcam for review, but it's not a traditional webcam. This is from one of those overseas companies that sells a whole lot of like kind of build to service webcams that are supposed to be integrated into other technology. So they don't have formal cases. They're not, you know, with fancy software. So I'm gonna open this up here. You can see it's in a ESD safe bag here. That's not typical for consumer electronics because this is bare exposed PCB. It's got a heatsink on the back and a mini USB connector. That's actually a little weird. I was under the impression this was USB 3.0, but I could be wrong. And then it has a lens cover. Doesn't want to come off. There we go. And it comes with a teeny tiny lens to mount, but it's supposed to have decent specs. And I've wanted to check out more webcams for a while, but there hasn't been a development in the market. Hopefully you've seen my Why Webcams Suck video by now, but this would traditionally be integrated into some industry, you know, device to use the camera on its own. But this is supposed to be able to work for me to just hook it up to the computer and it still function normally as well. And the specs on it are pretty cool. And I want to see how it fares compared to the consumer webcams because it seemed like it could do a decent amount. So pretty excited for that. This is from Econ Systems. They're in India. And stay tuned for that review. All right, we're gonna tackle this long box here next. Then we're gonna get to a box that I don't know what it is, although I may have just figured out per emails. And then my real excited one before we get to the oversized boxes. Oh, I hit the ceiling. Haha. So this is the iFootage. It doesn't seem to have a specific model number. Cobra 2 Strike. This is a monopod, but it is one that can get super, super low and has the expandable feet to sit on a desk. Now I have a couple monopods. One's from Benro, and I think one I just got rid of. It was a super cheap one. And admittedly, I don't use them a ton. I even bought the fancy Benro one. It has like a pan tilt head. Thinking, oh, I'll take this with me on our hikes when I go taking pictures since my camera's so heavy and have something better to use it. And then I don't because that's even more stuff to carry. The logic didn't work out there. And admittedly, my wife Chu at the time kind of also questioned my logic, and I still went with it, and now I understand why. But this one looks like it'd be fun for having around the studio. Comes nicely packaged in here, and then like I said, it has actual feet. So it can act, I mean, that technically it's got 3 feet, makes it a tripod, but it can sit here on the table, and then I can position it. I mean, obviously it's only gonna be able to support itself so much, but it's got this little locking mechanism to support. It's got its own little ball head here. And then it's got a ball head, or kind of interesting head up here, and it's a telescoping one. Sounds like one of those weird instruments where you like rolled the ball back and forth and it made a noise, but thought it'd be pretty interesting. But that is the door. I think it's DHL. Sometimes things just don't work out. I was all excited thinking that was DHL, the shipping company. Perfect timing for my thing I'm getting for my camera. I was gonna rush up here, be all excited that it arrived while I was recording the video. It's not. It is people who are replacing telephone poles in our backyard area, saying that they're gonna need to cut off the power for about an hour. They said it's gonna be a little bit, so I have time to finish this video and to turn off my servers, but that really sucks because it's an at-home work day today. I was supposed to get work done, and it's gonna be tough to do that without power. That's what happens when all of your job relies on electricity. But yeah, pretty cool monopod. Don't fully know what's up with it yet. I'll have to dig into it further when I showcase it a bit more. I don't think I'm obligated to review this per se, but I do want to just show how I can make use of it in the studio, because I like showing off that stuff once I have a bit better handle on it. We gotta move along. This package came from in 4 rounds of FedEx showing up at my house all in one day. I don't 100% know what it is. I'm expecting a few more things that I guess, since I have to wrap this up soon, I will add into the video that I'm pretty excited for once they arrive, but man. Ooh, okay. So this is the Blue Ember. This is Blue's new XLR condenser microphone. People kept telling me it was USB. I don't have any idea why, because it's not. It wasn't when I agreed to review it. It's not now. But it's their new XLR condenser microphone for recording and streaming, and it's got a little bit more of a slimmer design than the Yetis. This is actually my second Blue mic I have in for review at the moment. I also have talk into here, not talking to the front, not the top. I'm glad that they include it. It's funny, but I'm glad that they include it because so many people use the Yetis and other mics wrong. Ooh, this is really pretty. This is the microphone. It clearly has some sort of threading here for a shock mount. Or, well, it threads into the mount they include. I assume they would have a shock mount for it as well. Thread it up. Nice little slender, admittedly adult toy looking thing, but nice and clean, has a nice color to it. Get it right up in front of your mouth and start talking. Of course, you'll want some sort of pop filter here, which will admittedly ruin the aesthetic. That's part of what I don't get about some of these. You clearly need at least a small form pop filter right here, because even if you get it right here, you're going to be plosifying to all hell since it's a condenser. But it's really nice looking, and I'm excited to check it out. Like I said, it is the second Blue microphone that I have in for review at the moment. The other one is the Blue Baby Bottle SL, and I am pretty stoked to check both of them out together, as the Baby Bottle has kind of a reputation for it, going for it. All right, last of what is on the table here. This is really cool. I'm just gonna go ahead and open it up before I spoil it. I mean, it is most likely the title-based item, so you already know what it is at this point, but I haven't seen it myself, so I'm really excited. Yes. Box flew away from me. This is really cool. Almost threw it. Xbox One X. I got sent it from Microsoft, from the Xbox team, from the company. This is insane. This is one of those situations where I get to say that I've achieved my dreams that I set out to accomplish whenever I started this whole YouTube thing. Because I think back to middle school and high school epos, reading game magazines like Game Informer and EGM and magazines like that, and my dream job at the time was to work for one of said magazines, reviewing video games, and hoping that I could get games for review, which I get fairly frequently, not like AAA games, but some sort of games. Interesting little getting started collection of paper here. Nicely organized. But, indie games and things like that. And also getting the game consoles so I could review the games. And while I don't do game reviews at this point, and while I may expand to it at a future date, not really a priority for me right now, I got a freaking Xbox. I got sent an Xbox. So this is a huge first for me. And is just really freaking cool overall. Nice little HDMI cable. We had the power cable, controllers in here. I'm going to keep the box for a little bit. Unfortunately, I have not kept all of my console boxes. That kept being a goal of mine, was to keep all of them so I could have them on display and stuff. But living in a smaller apartment, man, I keep having to get rid of stuff. Speaking of smaller, this thing is a fraction of the size I expected it to be. It's really small. Like, this is smaller than my base Xbox One. I realized the Xbox One X is not a new console, so that's part of why I grouped it together here, is I knew just unboxing it on its own would not be the most interesting thing, but this is my first time having any sort of in-person hands-on with it. I knew it was pretty, but oh, that foam just gave me static shocks all over those USB ports. That hurt. Whew. When it gets real cold, it gets real staticky. But yeah, this thing is much more impressive than I was expecting. So it's not the Scorpio edition, obviously, but it's a nice little blackout theme here. My SDI converter just dropped. We got a weird bit of a scuff here, but nothing that I'll ever notice. But nice little blackout theme here, super minimal, super compact. I am impressed. So we've got the power input, which does not require an external brick anymore. I'm super grateful for that. HDMI out to TV, HDMI in if you have a cable box or something, USB 3.0, infrared blaster, SPDIF audio, and gigabit Ethernet. Although I have seen things that suggest that it might be 10 gigabit compatible, which is really interesting. Got some sort of hole over here. And then, of course, the disc tray and another USB port on the front with the controller sync button and an IR blaster and looks like an eject button. This thing is really nice. Like I was saying, this is a huge first for me. Something I never thought I would actually end up with on the channel here. Pretty freaking crazy. I'm using this to cover 4K capture cards, some of the 4K upscaling and re-emulating efforts of the backwards compatibility team, things I've talked about plenty in the past. And in fact, I want to give a special thanks to one of my Discord moderators, Isorb, who actually kind of pushed me into contacting Microsoft again to try to get one of these, because I've had comments about it quite a few times, because every time I do like a 4K capture card review or an HDR capture card review, and I'm just like, and then there's Xbox. I have literally the original Xbox One. Mine's the Halo 5 edition, but you know, the oldest Xbox One that exists. Doesn't support any of these new features, but the capture card should work fine with them, and that's all the mention I can give. And for Xbox One X users, that's the whole audience market that I'm not really responding to. And he's like, you know, you do a lot of that coverage, you should see if they'll hook you up. And I didn't think they would. And they did. Oh, goodness. Now, I always try to be super mindful of biases and things like that when it comes to coverage, but there's no review obligation for this. It would be kind of pointless to review. This thing came out like 2 years ago now. It would be kind of pointless to review it at this point. So, you know, my actual editorial opinionizing about this specific console is mostly irrelevant to the content I'll be making. So I always try to be super mindful of that stuff, but this should be fine, and I am freaking stoked. They sent me a freaking Xbox. All right. I wanted to further emphasize just how small this Xbox is compared to my Halo 5 Guardians Edition Xbox One from the base model. It is significantly smaller in every dimension, as well as being quieter while it runs. As I've gotten to play quite a bit, I loaded it up and got myself one of those little Seagate game drives and loaded it up with all the games from Games Pass and Master Chief Collection and things like that, and have streamed a couple times with my buddy BBK Dragoon. And Halo Master Chief Collection in 4K is phenomenal, and I've been having a blast playing it, especially with the HCS tournament that just went on. That was a blast to watch as well. But a really cool feature that I wanted to point out that I was hugely stoked for with the Xbox One X is the different video modes that it supports. So not only does it do normal 1080p, 720p, and then the 4K stuff, it does HDR for some games, if you have an HDR TV, which I do, but 4K if you have a 4K monitor. But it also does 1440p output as well as 120 hertz output if you need to sync it up to a specific monitor. So something that I've run into as a minor annoyance with other consoles is my main gaming setup are two 1440p 120 hertz displays set up, and normal game consoles at 1080p 60 don't look super hot, not natively showing at 1440p. This alleviates that. It lets me display at my monitor's native resolution to avoid any scaling issues or weird, softer image.
and it can do 120 hertz sync to make sure that frame times are a bit better on your monitor, which is just really, really cool. And I have a video dedicated to showing how it's set up with capture cards and things like that in the future, but I am super stoked on this thing.
I'm done fanboying. I was originally going to hook this up and test it with a 1440p 144 hertz FreeSync monitor and do some other tests. But I do not have time now that they're shutting off my power, so I'm going to just let you enjoy some of the other stuff that I was sent in the bigger boxes. Stuff that doesn't have boxes at all is I was sent 2 more gaming chairs, one from eWin Racing and then one from Gamdius, the Achilles M1XL or something. I do not like either of these very much at all, unfortunately. However, that makes 3 gaming chairs that I have now. I've not actually covered any of them. I will be covering them in a roundup soon. And again, I'm trying to temper my negative biases towards those because I do realize that I didn't even check out the controller here. I do realize that my experiences are not representative of everyone's, and I've actually been deliberately finding and chatting with people who enjoy gaming chairs to kind of be able to provide a little bit of explanation as to why. Here's the controller. But I have not had a good experience thus far. And then I got a BenQ monitor that's 1440p, 140 Hz, FreeSync 2, and HDR that I'm working on a review of. Pretty excited for. And then the last thing that I am going to wait to record until I get in here. So you'll see that in just a minute. I need to go turn off my servers before the power kicks off. So it's been 2 hours and they have not turned off our power yet. And I have stuff to do, and I went and turned everything off so I could wait out the power being off. I have work to do. This has been my one day all week. It's a Thursday that I've finally had the energy and the time and being home. I had some out-of-home shooting I had to do for someone else that I've had time to do videos. So we're just going to start unboxing. While I was waiting, I did get another shipment from Newtek. I know what the 2 big boxes are for the most part, but I don't really know what this is. So we're going to check this out. My DHL shipment with the thing I was secondly most excited for next to the Xbox still has not arrived. Getting kind of frustrated. It had a import tax applied to it that I had to pay, and they sent the email for that at like 2 a.m. So I paid it at like 7 a.m. when I got up, but that was before it got put with the carrier. But then I did get a phone call, an automated phone call thing saying I needed to pay it or it would be put on hold. So I don't know if it's actually coming today, even though I paid it today. Oh, nice. Okay, I'm hiding my address label here because I do have to ship some of the stuff back. This is the Newtek Connect Spark, which is like that BirdDog NDI encoder, but it's designed for low bandwidth scenarios. So when you're on like someone else's network or you're over Wi-Fi, things like that, where you don't have a ton of bandwidth for the full-fledged NDI amount. Remy is just marking my light right now. So this one's brand new in box. There we go. So it's a little encoder box. It's got some USB ports, a micro SD card slot, HDMI loop through, gigabit Ethernet, wireless, and mini USB as well as power. And so it converts it using a version of NDI that is still H.264 based a little bit, so that it's a little more compressed and bandwidth friendly instead of saturating a full gigabit network or not working over Wi-Fi. So I'm excited to check that out as well. I didn't realize they were getting it to me so quick. My allergies are so bad lately. It's been bouncing between like 18 degrees and 60 degrees. And currently it's 30 something and snowing. So my sinuses are not having a good time. Which is yet another reason I'm behind on content, because I have some microphone reviews to do, but I can't do that when I sound like I'm sick. Speaking of microphones, I'm not going to open this one up, but I borrowed the Asus Strix Magnus gaming microphone, aka the deodorant stick, from Wendell. He had an unused one that he said I could borrow for review. I said I'm not going to open it, but I'm trying to open it. Haha. Oh, what the hell? Really? Comes in a padded case with ridiculous designs on it. This is what your money's going to, not to a quality mic. That's so ridiculous. It is a giant fat deodorant stick. Oh man. I'm excited to check this out because it's going to be really goofy. Comes in this ridiculously over-engineered case. But I guess if you travel with your deodorant stick microphone a lot, maybe you want it. All right. And then either lastly or second to lastly, depending on if that DHL shipment ever comes. I keep referring to it as that because I don't want to spoil what it is until I see it in my hands. We have my Synology NAS here. I want to go ahead and open this up so I can get looking at it. Again, I don't have drives for it yet, but these boxes are huge and they are taking up so much of my apartment right now that I want to slim down on how much space they take up, which I can do by eliminating some of the outer boxes of stuff that I am keeping. I'm not keeping the Newtek stuff, which is the biggest... That was an awful sound. I'm so sorry. I'm not keeping the Newtek stuff, which are the bigger boxes, although I've already gotten rid of the gaming chair boxes, but I am keeping this, so I can get rid of this box. DS2419 Plus. Hit myself in the nose with the box when it came off. Hey, and they included my 10 gigabit card, SFP Plus. Hopefully I can just daisy chain my two current NASs with it. All right, this is a beefier boy than my current NAS boxes. This is a really big one. Wow. Oh, my stool fell back. Oh, that was about to be really bad. It's beautiful. Yeah, so this is going to be my new editing NAS. I'm first going to set it up as an offsite backup, but then once the World Backup Day project is finished and stuff, I will be swapping this over to my main edit NAS. Then my current edit NAS will become my archive project NAS, and then my current archive project NAS will be my offsite backup, just due to how the storage amounts and speed of them scale for my needs. So this has So this has 24 bays, as is. Actually, that's not true. Ooh, that one's kind of stuck in there. Let me see if I can, there we go. Fixed. So this one has 12 bays built into it, and I don't have an expansion right now. I don't have an expansion for it. I don't know that I will necessarily get one anytime soon, but it's got 24 bays as is, and can be loaded up. And so what I'm targeting is some 14 terabyte drives, load that up, and then use the 12th slot for an SSD, a SATA SSD, or, that's my only option, a SATA SSD. Maybe about 2 terabytes for cache, because you can't use, my big annoyance with these big Synology boxes is they only have one PCI Express slot. So you have the choice of a 10 gigabit networking card for faster networking speeds, or a M.2 card for NVMe cache. I'm not sure I understand the situation in which you need the speeds of a NVMe cache drive if you're only on gigabit. Now it does have 4 Ethernet ports on the back, and I believe they work with Samba multi-channel, so you could set up 4 gigabit per second and have a bunch of people pulling at once, and perhaps by having that extra cache on like a multi-user network, that works out. But for my uses, pure speed is important, and so I kind of need both the cache and the networking, and that's not an option. So I'm taking a hit on storage space, ideally, to set up a SSD cache. So that way the SATA SSD is still feeding as fast as it can, as well as the hard drive RAID. Not 100% certain yet. Got 2 big old beefy fans in the back here. Has a serial port. That is a connection for the expansion bay, which is a different connection than my DS1817 Plus. That one was an eSATA. This is some different kind of expansion. I honestly don't know it offhand. Got USB ports, Kensington lock and power. So I'm pretty stoked. These things are really good. You know, that complaint I mentioned is clearly just for workflow purposes for my needs, just a little bit of confusion there. I'm sure for plenty of people it's a thing, or else it wouldn't still be a bundled option. But got that, got the 10 gigabit card I can install. Looks like it fits up here at the top. And once I get some drives, we're gonna load it up. It's here! It's here! So this looks like a normal Blackmagic Ursa Mini Pro EF mount, which is already on my camera right now. I have an EF mount installed. However, this is special. I've never been so stupidly excited for something that I'm never really gonna see again, because it's gonna be inside my camera behind a lens, even though philosophically I'll always be looking at it. But I think the anticipation of it seeming like it wasn't gonna come today has made me a little more excited than it was. Because at the start of the day, the thing I was most excited for was the Xbox, and I'm still excited to hook that up. But, so I've never actually bought a straight up mount for this camera. Apparently it comes in this pretty cool case with some way of opening it. It actually doesn't look like there's a seam anywhere. There we go. This is a complicated case. I feel like I'm opening the Ark or Pandora's box or something. There we go. So this is the EF mount for the Blackmagic Ursa Mini Pro. However, has an extra piece of glass, or 2 or 3 or so in it. It's a speed booster for my Ursa Mini Pro to make it from a Super 35 sensor field of view to a full frame sensor field of view. Sensor size is still the same, although the sensor is massive as is. But it takes, oh, Remy, don't get your cat hair in this. It takes full frame lenses and shrinks them down to the Super 35 sensor. And then the Ursa does have crop shooting modes, which are used for higher frame rate stuff, and just generally you can just tell it to use a windowed sensor if you need a more cropped in field of view, which will also benefit from this and go back towards the Super 35 mode. I am super stoked for this. I'm not actually gonna hook this up within the video as I originally stated, just because I'm shooting with this camera and it's already been so long. It has now been 4 or 5 hours since I was originally told they were gonna turn off my power. And the power company has since left and never turned off my power. So I'm so glad I disrupted my workday. But other than the fact that the lens I'm using now, which is the Sigma 18-35 f1.8, which is a crop sensor APS-C size lens, isn't gonna work anymore other than at the 35mm field of view, which is still good. 35mm f1.8, beautiful lens. Other than that lens, this lens being not super usable, this is gonna let me do some really cool stuff with my Ursa, and I can't wait to show you. So thanks so much for watching the video. I did pay for this for my own money. That's not sponsored or anything. Thank you to all the companies who send me things to review, like the Synology NAS, the Newtek stuff, the Xbox. I got sent an Xbox. Anyway, I'm gonna get out of here. This video's probably been stupidly long. Thank you so much for sticking with me. This is a preview of upcoming content on the channel. I'll see you in the next one.